What's going on, everybody? Great morning. Great morning. Good to see everybody. Hope all is well. Kind of excited. If you guys are checking us out by way of replay, put hashtag replay in the chat. If you're checking us out live, do me a favor, put the city and country that you are tuning in from. We're getting ready to get started. I'm Glenn P. Brooks Jr. This is the lovely light-skinned Cherie A.
Brooks Jr. Jr.
And you guys are tuned in to Behind Closed Doors. Stay tuned. We'll be back right after this. We back.
Yes, we are.
It's kind of funny because we don't normally go live. We normally do YouTube premieres. So sometimes, I get my buttons twisted. And so, yeah.
Just a little bit.
Just a touch of love. A little bit. If you're tuning in, we do definitely want to know what, and I told Cherie this morning, I was tired, y'all, and I don't have much energy. So as my energy increases,
it's okay.
You'll feel it.
I got you.
You got me back.
I got you.
Come on now.
I got you. So, hey guys, first we want to welcome you guys to Behind Closed Doors with the Brooks. As Glenn said earlier, he is the lovely Glenn P. Brooks Jr. and I am Cherie A. Brooks Jr. We are authors, speakers, and relationship coaches. And today's episode is titled Weathering the Storms, Panama Edition, How Seasons Shape Your Relationship Journey. So one thing that we've learned, those of you that have been following us for a while know that we relocated here to Panama, the country, not Panama City, Florida, but Panama City, Panama, a little over a year ago. And one of the things we had to get accustomed to was the different seasons here. Unlike in the U.S. and in many other parts of the world where they have 4 seasons, there are actually only 2 seasons here. But when we think about relationships, there are seasons in relationships as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
He gonna get the buttons. He gonna get it.
Concerned about the buttons. No, listen, just real quick. It's funny that you say that, babe. I'm thinking about Tierra, who just jumped in the room. Hey, Tierra, it's good to see you. Happy Friday Eve. I got so many thoughts concerning what Cherie just said. I think that's one of the things that we did not really anticipate when we visited Panama the first time back in January 2023. It was for our 24th wedding anniversary. We took 10 days to be able to just come celebrate our anniversary, but also to follow up on the research that we have been doing for 2.5 years on the country. And does it have all the things? Is it what we think it might be, especially when it comes to, relocating potentially? And when we did that, one of the first things we realized was that the sun rises and sets at pretty much the same time every day. Mm-hmm. So unlike in the U.S. being from the East Coast where you're used to daylight savings times, and before you know it, you got, this, as the summer goes longer, the sun is setting longer. So, it may be 9 o'clock at night at sometimes during the summer where the sun sets. That's not true here. It rises in between 6 and 6:30 just about every day of the year, and it sets between 6 and 6:30, give or take, every day of the year. So that took some getting used to. What does this have to do with relationships? I think it has everything to do with relationships. Before we get going, babe, let's go ahead, and for those that are chimed in live, where are you in your relationship? Are you married? Are you single? Are you divorced? Are you separated? Put your relationship status in the chat. Are you a parent? Are you a grandparent? Put that status in the relationship, because with every relationship, seasons come and go, and I think that seasons, by definition, are meant for us to be able to be alerted to a change that's coming. Yes. And I think that when we came here, we didn't realize that a change was a coming, and it was a situation, baby.
Right. And so, as we talk about seasons, here in Panama, in this region of the world, we have rainy season and dry season. And typically, when you think of rainy season, you're thinking of blah, it's dreary, it's, you can't do anything because it's raining. And then when you think of dry season, you're thinking, okay, so it's desolate, it's too hot. Everything just kind of shrivels up because it's dry. And the thing that I've learned here is that your perspective about the seasons that you're in makes all the difference. So let's talk about rainy season. So rainy season, you think of rain, like in the U.S., so spring would be typically rainy season. And people will complain about the fact that it's raining every day. You can't go out and do everything because it rains every weekend. It'll be dry all during the week, Monday through Friday, but then it rains on the weekend. But to shift your perspective a little bit, without rain, things don't grow. So although rain, there is a downpour that happens during rainy season, that downpour doesn't necessarily have to be a negative thing. So if you look at it, that even in rainy seasons, there's growth that's happening. So how do I relate that to relationships? In relationships, you go through rainy seasons. You go through seasons where it seems like everything is coming in, like everything. It's just this constant barrage of issues, things coming at you both, things going on with your kids, things going on with your family. There's this constant barrage of things coming down. But if you look at these things as an opportunity to grow and see that it's through this rainy season that you get to grow as an individual, that you get to strengthen your relationship, that actually that downpour is nourishing your relationship because it's adding something to it that if you approach it properly, it's going to add value to the relationship.
So let's talk about that a little bit. Here in Panama, it's funny because nothing stops the rain. I mean, absolutely nothing. Construction don't stop because of rain. People don't stop going to work because of rain. People don't stop going out at night. They don't stop going to church. They don't stop going to work. They don't stop anything because of the rain. And part of that is because it rains 9 months out of the year. Now, it don't in rainy season. It don't rain every day,
right.
And it don't rain all day. And we don't have hurricanes, and we don't have typhoons, and we don't have these horrid wind, issues. So it's raining straight down. Now there's thunder and lightning like everything else, but what I'm saying is that it's seasonal. Cherie, one of the things that I realize is when you said rain replenishes or it refreshes or it causes things to grow, there is a lushness about the Panama landscape because we live in a rainforest. It is really green. It is really vibrant. Fruits are growing wild. Like you can literally pick a mango off of a mango tree in the wild. And it's just crazy. In relationships, a lot of times we don't embrace rain because, in my opinion, we don't see or we don't embrace what rain produces. And I think that if we could get excited about what the rain could produce, it could change our perspective on some stuff.
Right. It's funny because recently had a conversation with one of the parents in our community, and they were sharing some concerns they had about their child. And I think oftentimes we as parents have in our mind this path that our children are supposed to go on. But what we don't recognize is that when they hit roadblocks, when they hit challenges, when they go through these different issues that they deal with, whether it's them in your mind cutting up in school, but it's really them asserting their individuality, it's them learning to have a voice, it's them learning the boundaries. If we look at it from a negative perspective, it'll be frustrating for us, it'll be frustrating for them. But the thing is, on the back end, because our kids are grown and we actually have grandchildren now, I can look back at seasons, particularly with our son, when he was going through rainy seasons. But today I can look at him and see how his going through those seasons matured him and helped him to grow into the person that he is today. Had he not gone through the things he went through, he wouldn't be the person he is today. He wouldn't have the character that he has today. He wouldn't have the resilience that he has today. Hindsight is 20/20. When you're in it, you don't always see that. But if you can adjust your perspective to recognize that there's something positive out of whatever this season is, whatever this rain is that's coming down, whatever these issues are that are going on in my life, that there's something that's going to come out of this. That there's something that's going to develop from this if I approach it properly. Now, if you approach life from a negative bent, if you always look for the negative, and I used to be one of those glass half empty people, so everything was negative. I could point out everybody else's mistakes. I could point out all the negative, but when my mind shifted and I was able to start looking at life with the glass half full, it changed everything for me.
So I want to give you guys a little bit of a tip, and this is something that I just recently celebrated my 58th birthday, and my sister was here for an entire month. She lost her husband back in August, and one of the things that we recognized was that we had space. We had space for her to be able to come and to grieve and to do all the things and to grow, and to figure out what her new norm. Her husband's name was Norman, and so I often smile when I say, what her new norm would look like.
Yes.
When we're talking about changes, here's two things I need you to consider. There's only two ways to change a situation. You can put this in the chat. Number one is to physically change your position. Mm-hmm. So, example, if a college athlete comes out of college and he struggled and his family didn't have it and he didn't financially, he struggled all throughout college, and he's the number one draft pick in the draft for whatever team sport, he goes instantly from not having to having an abundance of everything in a matter of hours, right? That means he physically changed his life to something shifted. A person hits the lottery. You get the picture. But the second is the idea that I can change a certain thing based on how I see it, and how I see the perspective of it, the place that I sit, and how I see the situation. Now, here's the crazy thing. It's only the latter that you can control. I can't control if I'm the number one draft pick. I can't control if I hit the lottery. I can't control if my house sells in 30 days and I'm able to get the kind of money I need out. I can't control outcomes. But what I can control is activity. And in a relationship, I want you guys to begin thinking through. Let's be really mindful that there are a lot of things in relationship you don't get to control. Parents, we learn this the hard way, don't we? It's like, as soon as them little jokers realize that they have free wills, right? And they begin to exercise their free will. I don't care what you teach them, train them to do. They have choices and they can go whichever way they want. So I want you to challenge yourself and shift your perspective on, what is this? How am I looking at this? And can I view it from a different perspective that gives me a different outcome?
That's good, Glenn. Like you said, so number one is change your position, and number two is change your perspective. And I think one thing when it comes to changing your perspective, and you touched on this, people, we often feel like we can, and you said change, was it change the behavior or change the actions?
Yeah.
The thing is with changing actions, you have to realize you can only change your actions. You can only change your actions. You can't change the actions of somebody else. How many of you have children or have grandchildren, and when they get to around that 2-year-old age, they learn the word no? That's them realizing, hey, I have free will. I can say no, or I can say no. They learn to activate that part of them by saying no. And so we often in relationships, we buck against the no. We buck against the fact that everybody else is not doing it the way that we want it done. We buck against the fact that everybody's not thinking the way that we think, but we don't embrace the fact that it is the difference. It is the fact that they think differently. It is the fact that they have a different opinion that strengthens our relationship. If I was in relationship with me, how much more would I grow? But because I'm in relationship with somebody who is opposite me in many areas, who thinks differently than me in many areas, it challenges me.
Let's take that to couples, babe, real quick, because, and I want you to stay right in that vein, pick it up with relating that to couples. Because just this morning, you woke up, you were in the living room, I was in the bedroom, and you came in the bedroom and said, can we talk? Can we talk for a minute? Fellas, when y'all hear that word, it's like, oh, Jesus, what have I done? Now, naturally, I had the very same thought, but it was regarding something where, and you, somebody could put it in the chat, no is an entire sentence, right? However, if you don't know how to use that no, it can create problems that don't exist. And then what you'll do is you'll say, but I'm just telling you what I want. This is, it's not about you, it's about me. And now it begins to drag out. So let's kind of go down the couple journey a little bit and talk about no as a boundary and why we should probably embrace it.
Right. And so I think we have to take the negative connotation away from the word no, number one. Just because someone tells you no, and this is something we have always told our grandchildren, no does not mean never. No may mean not now, but it doesn't necessarily mean never. And so I think that in relationships, particularly in coupled relationships, when your partner comes to you and challenges you or is in disagreement with you on something, you hear it as this great big no. And it's not necessarily no. So the situation this morning, Glenn and I were working on some things that are happening with us with, I don't even know if I'd say business, but it's a new project.
Yeah.
We'll call it that.
Stay tuned.
A new project that we're working on.
Soon.
And I had some concerns in regard to, because we are different, we approach things differently. Glenn can get tunnel vision very quickly. And when I say tunnel vision, I mean complete tunnel vision. Whereas I am a multitasker. I can do 50 things at once, and not that that's always good, but I can juggle things. I'll say that because I'm not so much a multitasker, but I can juggle things because multitasking is a whole farce. But that's a whole nother conversation. But there was a season in our relationship where I would come to him with a concern about something, and he would automatically get defensive because he would hear my challenging him or my questioning him as a no. He wouldn't hear anything that I said. And I would always tell him, I was like, you're hearing me as if I'm your mother. And I use that term because for little boys who grew up in a single home raised by their mom, that was the person, that was the voice that they heard all the time. And oftentimes that was the voice that was correcting them, that was disciplining them, that was in their mind oftentimes riding them. They felt like they couldn't do nothing right. They were always being corrected for something. And so there was a season early in our relationship, whenever I would come to Glenn, he would hear that no. And I'm like, no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just trying to have a conversation about a concern that I have. And so this morning when we had the conversation, I was able to share my concerns, but I could tell he didn't hear the no. He was able to hear that this is something to challenge you, something to help you grow in an area, and that I'm not attacking your character. I'm not attacking you. But I think in relationships, especially if you have that bent where when your partner comes to you with something, you see it as, this is rain now. This is something being dumped on me. This is this downpour again. Oh gosh, here we go again. If you hear it that way, if you approach it that way, you'll never get to the point where you can hear it and be like, okay, well, maybe this is an area I can grow in. This is something I can work on. Maybe I can improve, or that's a different perspective. I never thought of it that way.
Sheree, that's fire. That is fire, because when you say that's a different perspective, I had to choose to view that differently. Tierra said I was the 2-year-old in my previous marriage. I didn't embrace our differences. I worried or wanted him to think like me and do the same things as me. I didn't realize that my mindset paralyzed the marriage. That is powerful, Tierra. And how many marriages are spouses literally introducing things that shut the relationship down because we don't exercise our ability to choose to shift our perspective. Now, let me give you this little piece, and I'm going to take a shameless plug right now, that if you are struggling with building the skills that it takes to do that, I want you to check out the descriptions and the links in the descriptions below, and sign up for a free discovery call for our MAPS Relationship Academy. Sheree and I have been working with couples and parents now for going on 8 years. This is our 8th year. Actually, it's 7.5 year. Back in 2017, we launched the MAPS Relationship Academy, and it's designed specifically to teach people the skills that it takes to grow in relationships. It is so much more than love. But the point I'm making is that I chose to view that from a different perspective, and what it did is it invited the solution. It invited, which quite frankly, and I'm sure you saw it, I began implementing solution based on what she said in terms of the challenges that she said almost immediately. And so there was no back and forth. There was no going through. There was no, and it's not about me acquiescing. It's not about me cowering to her leadership at that moment or vice versa. It's literally about me being mature enough to hear truth in real time and be able to take it, apply it, and then move differently. That's a skill, y'all. That's not something people just do. I remember in my first marriage, that wasn't me. My ex-wife could tell you, oh, nah, you about to get a fight going if you start challenging his ego or his manhood. The reason why most men don't handle being challenged well is not because purely it's about their maleness. It's about their miseducation. I need y'all to hear that. Put that in the chat. It's not about their maleness. It's about their miseducation. So we will genderize this thing and say, well, men don't listen. No. Men are uneducated. Or my wife don't never hear me. No.
Or
she hears.
Or she don't know how to
she might be
communicate.
miseducated. Come on, babe.
Or she simply doesn't know how to communicate with you. And that's something that I had to learn. And that's in every relationship. Everybody communicates differently. And you have to learn how to communicate to the person so that they hear you. We feel like I'm going to say my piece. I'm going to get it out. I'm going to just say what I got to say. You can talk till you blue in the face, but if I'm talking and they're hearing me speak in German and I'm speaking in English because they don't understand me, I'm just a bag of wind. At that point, I'm just talking. So we have to take the time to be able to understand who it is that we're communicating with, to communicate in a way that they understand it. And so when it comes to this downpour, and as you were talking, I'm hearing this thing. So some of you may be saying, okay, but it's raining all the time. My spouse it's always something. It's just coming down. It's always coming down. And I think that the thing that we have to recognize is that if your spouse is bringing something to you, if your partner, if your child, if your parent, whoever it is, somebody's coming to you and they're bringing this issue to you over and over and over and over and over again, I would dare say it's not all them. And what I want to challenge you to do is find the 1% of truth in what it is that they're sharing. Because some of it may be their perspective. It may be the way that they're skewed, their vision is skewed about a particular topic. But if this is an issue that keeps coming over and over again, step back for a minute and look at the situation as a whole and say, what in that can I say is true? Because obviously there's something, because this thing keeps coming up. They keep tripping over this thing in the hallway every week. And I'm saying it ain't nothing there. It must be something. The flooring is uneven. There's something that's causing them to trip up. There's something there. And I think that when we can look at it that way, instead of looking at it as an attack, and I think that's one thing in relationships, when these storms come, when the seasons change, we often take it personal instead of realizing, okay, there may be a part that I play, but then also it could be an issue they're dealing with. And I think when we take it personal, that's when we now get defensive. Because even, I'm going to flip real quick. So dry seasons. Couples. If you've been married for any extended length of time, you're going to have dry seasons.
Help me!
And dry seasons are those seasons when you ain't feeling each other like that. Not that you don't love them.
Let's get it.
Not that you don't care. But I'm like, boy, bye. Leave me alone.
I don't like you very much.
But that's a natural part of relationships. And I think that people have this false sense that relationships, it's going to be all lovey-dovey for 50 years, every day for 50 years. That's not real.
Sheree, let me introduce that, and I certainly want you to pick up. Here's the truth, it's particularly in marriage. Do you realize that marriage was not designed by God for your happiness? I want you to let that breathe. If you go through scripture biblically, if that's what your relationship is founded on, biblical truth, God did not create marriages for it to be about your happiness. And again, I would take you back to the very beginning. In the beginning with Adam and Eve, he created marriage, or the union of men and women in a marital relationship, for wholeness. See, Cherie is not designed to make me happy. She doesn't, her job, listen to me very carefully, is not to make me happy. That's why I don't subscribe to happy wife, happy life, happy house, happy spouse. I don't subscribe. I understand the connotation of it. I do get it. And I understand that there is a responsibility for each of us to create environments where happiness can live. But I can guarantee you that if I spend my every waking hour trying to make this one happy, I will consistently lose, and vice versa. What is an easier lift and a better fight, and one that's winnable, is the idea of working on me in such a way that it invites her to the table of harmony. That's where agreement takes place. We have something in common. So I put it in the chat. I want you to begin to look for the grain of truth, the grain of salt. When you think about salt and how it adds flavor, it don't take a lot. As a matter of fact, if you put too much salt on something, you can absolutely ruin the dish because it's too much. So think of salt and truth as the same thing. Sometimes it's just a sprinkle of truth. What grain of truth in what she said this morning was true? I am driven. I can get laser focused where I don't pay attention and I no longer prioritize my family. I got track records and receipts to prove that, right? I got a whole divorce behind me of 12 years to prove what it looks like to focus solely on me. Does that make sense? And so with that being said, is there a grain of truth in what she's saying? Absolutely. So let me lean into that. Let me embrace that so that it keeps my ears open to the rest of what she has to say. Come on, babe.
Yeah, and I think that's the key. I think is being able to to push past your feelings, to not take it personal, and to look for, like you said, that grain of truth in whatever the situation is. So even in dry seasons, you may not be feeling each other. It does not mean that you're unhappy. It does not mean that the relationship is failing. It's simply a season. It's a season that you go through as you get older. Your bodies go through different things. You emotionally go through different things. No person is 100% every day, all day. And I think that there's this misconception that once you get married, like you said, that you're just going to be happy. And as Glenn said, that's not what God designed marriage for. And the best example I can really give you of what marriage was designed for, those of you that know scripture, know the scripture that talks about iron sharpening iron, that's marriage. God brought the two of you together to sharpen one another. And if you've ever sharpened a knife, there are little flecks that come off of it. There's friction that takes place. Without that friction, that knife doesn't get sharpened. Without friction in your relationship, without the rainy season, without the dry season, there's no sharpening. So if you can change your perspective and look at that rainy season, that downpour, that barrage of issues that are happening, and look at it as this is all happening to help sharpen me as an individual. If you can look at that dry season, that time when you guys just ain't feeling each other, you two ships passing in the night. If you just kind of bumping heads with each other, you just ain't, everything ain't lovey-dovey all the time. This is a season to sharpen me. That may be a time for you to get closer to God. That may be a time for you to focus on you, your own personal development, and not be so absorbed in this person being the answer to your everything. And I think in marriage, oftentimes we put way too much weight on our spouse, on our partner to be the answer for everything. You have to remember, we're two individual beings. Although you get married, they say two become one. You physically don't become one. We did not become Siamese twins when we got married. We are not joined at the hip. I'm still very much my own individual person. He's his own individual person. We have come into partnership together. We have come into covenant together. But we are still two whole individual people. And I think that's the thing. If you don't look at your relationship as something that's sharpening you to become whole, and even when it comes to your relationship with your children, the friction that you have with your child, your teenage child, the friction that you're going through is to help them become whole. It's to help you become whole, because none of us were trained how to be parents. There was no course. There was no I didn't get an A and then became a parent. It's on the job training.
That part.
And my goal was to become as whole a parent as I could possibly be. Did I always hit the mark? No. I don't know if I can say I hit the mark now. My children survived. They're alive and they're pretty successful. So I think I did pretty good.
I did okay.
But I was far from perfect.
Right. Babe, let me jump in real quick if I can, because we're running out of time. And I definitely want to help people understand that when it comes to weathering the storms, and we're talking about this relative to us living here in Panama and, beginning to look at how life happens differently environmentally, I think that 50-50 part, and I wanted to kind of go back to that, is something I want to bring out, because in our culture, we're hearing this whole 50-50 thing. And I'm always reminded that nowhere other than in math does two parts make a whole. The two halves, make a whole. That only happens in math. There are days where I don't have 50%. I'm not working with 80%. I'm not working with 20%. I'm not working with 100%. There's a sliding scale of what I'm bringing to the table. The goal is to get to the place where we have such a level of communication that we can communicate on the front end where we at, what's going on with us, and how that is relating to how I show up, so that now my partner has the ability to go find the other part to make up the whole. So at the end of the day, 20-80 is 100. Right. 70-30 is 100. 60-40 is 100, so on and so forth. So what would it look like for us to own the part that we do bring that, operate in 100% of the 25% I got today, and then you be able to understand through communication, listen, let me make up the whole. And here's the other thing, babe. Sometimes it's okay. You can pass a test without 100.
Yeah, you can.
Let me let that breathe. Last time I checked, a 75 gets you a passing grade. So why is it that we have to be 100% all the time, every day, as if that's either A, real, or B, sustainable? Come on, babe.
That was good. I like that. You did that. Help me. You did good with your tired self. And so, I think that when it comes to the storms in life, and there are going to be storms, there are going to be different seasons that you're going through, it's all about your perspective. You have to challenge yourself on how you view those different seasons that you're going through, whether it's rainy season, whether it's dry season, whether it's spring, whether it's summer, whatever you want to call it. Challenging your perspective to look at every season as an opportunity for growth, as it's being utilized to help sharpen you as an individual. Also, I want to invite you guys that are viewing us, if you have not, please subscribe to our channel. We got some exciting things that are coming up next month, in October of 2024, that we are going to be announcing coming up in the next couple of weeks, and we want you to be a part of that. And so please subscribe so you get all the notifications on those upcoming things that we got going on.
Yeah, guys, I'm telling you, we are excited about so many things happening in fourth quarter of this year, particularly where it comes to us leaning into helping relationships grow. So definitely stay close. At the end of the day, here's what I know to be true. You cannot get to any place of significance by yourself. Because we all
need
some
help.
Y'all be good, and let's catch up on the next edition of Behind Closed Doors.